1,316 days as our undisputed WWE Universal Heavyweight Champion of the world, Roman Reigns finally drops the championship at WrestleMania 40 after winning it at SummerSlam 2020, the first pay-per-view of the Thunderdome era.
Yeah.
Here we are. Listen, there's so much hate online and has even come from this podcast about the lack of title defenses, about the lack of appearances. Regardless of how you feel about either of those things, WWE, for us to talk about WWE being in the place that it is in right now, where this could be the greatest era of wrestling of all time, Roman Reigns led that charge.
Absolutely.
I know Seth Rollins was a huge part of it. I know that, insert whomever, Drew McIntyre, AJ Styles, and the surgeons of LA Knight, whatever. Roman Reigns led that charge. And that's undisputed right there.
Yeah, no, he was the guy that carried WWE through the pandemic. Carried WWE with smaller crowds getting back together. And, we both at times, me more so than you, have been very critical of, like you said, the lack of title defenses, lack of appearances. Oh, I'm totally fine with putting it out there. And in a way, you can't have this long of a title reign and have him out there every week.
Especially with a guy who is battling leukemia ongoing.
Yeah. So, you can't do it every week. And I think that plays into this really well. It played into establishing the next future of WWE and Cody Rhodes and everything else. But he has done something that I don't think anybody thought we would ever see again with this kind of a title reign.
Yep.
I mean, it's not been pretty. There's been really great moments. You think of the pandemic era against Jey Uso and the formation of the bloodline and all that was great.
Yep.
You think of WrestleMania 37 with Edge and Daniel Bryan was fantastic. Yep. All of last year with Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes and all of that was really great. WrestleMania going into this year.
Who could forget SummerSlam in Nashville while it was another Roman and Brock match?
It was fun.
The ring being lifted up,
yeah.
something we literally have never seen.
Yeah.
We didn't see it because we were behind it, but still.
We were. And the stupid light.
And the stupid light.
But, I mean,
you're exactly right.
It's had its ups and downs. Like, not everything has made sense. I will never forgive them for the Finn Balor demon spot because they never explained it and it never came back.
Yep.
But everything else that they have done, they finally made Roman what they wanted Roman to be.
Yep.
And all they had to do was let him be himself.
Yep.
And not be the cookie cutter, suffer and succotash guy that they wanted him to be. Not the next John Cena, but the first Roman Reigns. That's what they had to let him be. And once he became that, and once you put, you got to give Roman a lot of credit. I think you've also got to give Paul Heyman a lot of credit. Yes. I think Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns, this was their child together that they were planning and that they were pushing forward and everything else. And they have done a fantastic job. I don't know if you saw the clip, but at the top of the stage, him and Paul hugging, crying because 3 years of work come to an end right there. Man. And, it was, for all the bad stuff and all the good stuff, it's a title reign that will never happen again.
Yep.
It will never be repeated. Maybe the days will get beat or something, but what we got will never be repeated. Yep. And it is very, very special to say we were a part of it and got to witness it.
I don't want to go as far as Aaron saying here that WWE goes bankrupt if he doesn't go on this title reign. I don't want to say that, but this era of storytelling that we are in doesn't happen without Roman Reigns and the way that they're able to do it. Andy, we say it all the time. If the pandemic hadn't happened, we probably don't get this version of Roman Reigns because in front of no crowd allowed him to hone his craft and allowed him to make this what it is. The pandemic benefited Roman Reigns more than any other wrestler. You could argue Bailey, you could argue, a couple others, but Roman Reigns becoming the absolute superstar that they wanted him to be. And let's look back, man. Shield debuted in what, 2013? Is that right? Survivor Series 2012,
13 or 12.
One of the two. So from either 2012 to 2020, that version of Roman Reigns had some highlights too. We had some good stuff. Nobody will ever forget the night that he came out and said that his leukemia was active again and he had to give up the championship. Nobody wanted to see that, you know? So we had some incredible moments with that version of Roman, but then we get this version. So just absolutely incredible. The thank you Roman chants on Raw tonight was just so well deserved. I'm so happy that they did that, and Cody acknowledging it. And same thing with Sammy acknowledging Gunther. I know we didn't mention it earlier, but those guys being able to acknowledge those long reigns, especially with Roman, man, I loved it. I'm like you. We're not going to see anything like this ever again. I don't think we necessarily need to see anything like this ever again, but man, I don't want to say the bloodline era is over because it can still continue, but this huge chapter or volume in the story is closed. And man, I could not be more appreciative of what Roman Reigns did in this era for WWE.
Yeah, I mean, he, we've said it. He carried the company during dark times and during, weird times with no fans, everything else. It allowed him to really hone in his craft to the point where, I say it all the time. One of my favorite things about Roman Reigns is when he is cutting a promo without a microphone in his hand.
Yes. Yep.
And that's because he did that during the pandemic because there was no crowd. And so we were able to hear him without a microphone.
Yep.
And so hearing him talk trash without the microphone in his hand, being able to make those little things matter and just picking up the pieces and putting together this masterpiece that he has created. I think it's very easy to say and very safe to say if the tribal chief character never happened, Roman Reigns would still be the same boring Roman Reigns he was.
Yeah.
For the most part. Maybe he would have got sick and tired of it and said, either you let me change or I'm gone. Like I could, because I think you could tell some of the interviews and stuff he said, he was just as frustrated as we were. Like he knew this wasn't working either. He knew, that night in Philly broke him in 2015. Because it would break anybody. Like that was a rough night for the fans. That was a rough night for Roman. That was a rough night for The Rock. And so I'm very grateful that we got this version. We got this character. And there for a while, it was really hard to not like Roman. Like it was very hard to be against Roman a lot of the time with the bloodline stuff and with Sami Zayn and with everything else. But he's really good at doing the things that get people invested, draws them in, and then gets them like on the edge of their seat wanting more or going in a completely different direction. So, for all the bad things I've ever said about Roman Reigns, he is one of the greatest champions of all time, one of the greats of all time. And that is at this point undeniable. And, the thing is he's not going to be around a lot, but I don't think he's anywhere close to being fully done. I think we still got a lot left to go and a lot of stories left to tell.
I don't know, man. On that A&E documentary that they did, he said once he drops the title, he's done. So, I mean, I feel like they can lure him back in for a match or two or three, but I think
he's not done till he faces his cousin. That's that's a given at this point, I think.
That is 100%.